Hey guys, welcome back to Real Time JC, Real Time Jesus with me, Stephanie, and episode 38, The Fear That Cancels Fear. Ooh, I feel like we need some sort of a sound effect right there because the fear that cancels fear, it just sort of calls for that. If it's your first time joining me on a Real Time JC episode, hello and welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button right below this video today and share with your friends. Okay, let's talk about this. The fear that cancels fear. I want to dig into not just any fear, but literally this phrase could be applied to any fear. The fear that cancels fear. The fear that I'm talking about today is the fear of God. The fear of God literally cancels any fear. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. First, I want to ask you a question because I asked myself this question today in my quiet time with Jesus, and that is, what do you fear about openly sharing your faith with people around you? Openly just living a life for Christ without feeling like you have to hide it. What do you fear? What do I fear? Well, I'll tell you what I have feared in the past, and maybe you can relate with this, and that is the fear of not being liked, the fear of being made fun of, specifically back in my teenage years. You know, teenage years are not always fun. That's when you're really finding yourself and you still don't know who you are when you turn 20 or when you turn 30 or when you turn 40. But here's the thing. Each human is going to go through lots of different seasons of life. And one season or another, depending on what circumstances we walk through, are going to determine what we fear in life too. But the fear of people not liking me was a real thing back in the junior high day and age. Now, as I continued into my 20s and 30s, I jumped into the musical theater world professionally, and most of the musicals that I was a part of, that I had the privilege of being a part of, were literally about the life of Christ. It was easy in a sense to share my faith with others because people knew me as being one who sang about Jesus, who acted in a biblical story about Jesus, and thousands. And at some point, I think the show that I was in at Sight and Sound Theaters counted 1 million people that came to hear the story about Noah. It was a musical called Noah that we did, and at the end of that musical, Jesus came out and he kind of just shared like, hey, I died for you. Will you accept me? Something like that. It was very simple, but very impactful. And hundreds of thousands of people came to Christ because of that specific musical, which is really cool. If you plug for Sight and Sound, if you haven't had a chance to check out one of their live theatrical productions, do it because it will move you. They will move you. And there's lots of different Noah, Joseph, Samson, Jesus. There's a lot of different ones. But what I'm saying is that it was easy for me to share my faith with others because people came to me. What about the times that are specifically in our lives where people aren't coming to us? We are being inserted into people's lives. The fear that can be just like come over you during those moments where you get that thing that that you guys know what I'm talking about. You get this thing in your heart, your butterflies start happening in your stomach and your heart starts beating fast, and you kind of have this feeling inside like, I'm supposed to talk with that person, or maybe I'm supposed to pray with that person right now. Jesus is giving me an opportunity right now in this moment to walk up to somebody I don't know and pray for them. I am freaking scared. And a lot of times we walk away without actually being obedient in that moment. But here's the cool thing is that God will give you another opportunity to be obedient. There is never an opportunity. Yes, probably there is opportunity. There are opportunities that are wasted in that moment where we don't follow through, but God will give us another opportunity to in essence, practice our faith. what he tells us in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 24 through 42, which is where I've been today, is to fear not. And his emphasis is on the actual fear of confessing Christ openly before men. There are a lot of different reasons why we don't need to be afraid. And I hope that through this episode today, that you feel a little bit more confident and that you gain a little bit more courage to move forward and to not be afraid of who you are. Like, you are a daughter, you are a son of the King of Kings, the ultimate king of the universe, of this world, the Lord of Lords, the God of the universe, of, like everything. I don't even know. I mean, I can't even comprehend it myself, but I think you kind of smell what I'm stepping in right here. So let's examine a couple of different reasons why we don't need to fear. Number one, suffering is to be expected. It tells us this in verses 24 through 25. It says, a disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his Lord. It is enough for the disciple that he be like his teacher and the servant like his Lord. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, or Beelzebub, you probably heard that name, how much more of those of his household? Now, just reading it doesn't really that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but let me help you break it down. Okay, men persecuted Jesus when he was on this earth, when he was ministering on this earth, right? Right. Okay. We can establish that fact. We know that men persecuted Jesus. He was literally put on a cross, persecuted through jeering, like vocally. There is a spear stuck in his side. He was nailed to the cross. He was, like, a crown of big thorns was placed on his head, and he died. So that fact is not disputed. He was definitely persecuted on this earth. Why should we expect anything different? And so here's what this verse means. We are his disciples, okay? A disciple does not outrank the master. So when they're talking about Beelzebub in this verse, the people who were persecuting him were saying that Jesus was in league with Satan, pretty much. They were saying lies about him, okay? So they're persecuting him through the lies. So why wouldn't they say the same things about his followers? Why wouldn't people who still to this day make fun of Jesus and say that he's not the Son of God and put him down and burn Bibles and all kinds of stuff, why wouldn't they say the same thing about us? So they will. They just will, and they do. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that in your lives being Christ followers. Unless you are a hanger-outer and not necessarily a Christ disciple, a follower who is a disciple. We're going to dig into that in a minute too, but I just wanted to throw that out there. In Acts 5:41 and Philippians 3:10, it says we should count it a privilege to suffer for him and with him. Okay, so that, number one was suffering is to be expected. Okay, number two, God is going to bring everything to light. Number two reason why we don't need to fear, God will bring everything to light. And it tells us this in verses 26 and 27 of Matthew 10. Therefore, do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing covered. Oops, I just hit the mic. There is nothing covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. But what I tell you in the darkness, speak into the light. And what you hear whispered in the ear, proclaim on the housetops. Okay, so let me break this down for you too. This part was a little bit easier to understand than the last couple verses, but the enemies of Jesus, they use secretive and deceptive ways and means to oppose the gospel. Like, things are done in the dark. But believers and true believers are open and they're courageous about their lives and their witness and who God is in their life. They want to go out there and they want to share about God because there's nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide. And that's why it says in John 18:20, Jesus says, in secret, I've said nothing. There's literally nothing that Jesus said in secret that couldn't be shared in the light. Nothing. So, of course, there's going to be false witnesses out there because, as an example, there were false witnesses that lied about Jesus during his trial. So are there going to be people out there that are going to lie about you? That because of people are going to be jealous. There's going to be people that have insecurities and are going to project things on you. So just expect that. If you are somebody who walks around with light and love and you are speaking life and truth into people and feeding into them and making an impact on this world, there will be people who are believers of Jesus even who are going to speak lies about you out of their own insecurities and their own fears, out of not really knowing who they are in Jesus, about their own fears and being afraid of not being able to be bold and be courageous and share about him. People will project those things onto you and people will lie about you. That's just truth. But here's the thing, God saw to it that truth would come out. And so we have nothing to fear because the Lord will one day reveal the secrets of men's hearts. And it tells us that in Romans 2:16. He will expose them and he will judge them. So in essence, our task is not to please men. Like that's not our task, but to proclaim God's message. And if you watched episode 37, it talks about how we have the authority through Christ. Like God is our authority. He's our boss in essence. He's our father. He's our king. And so when the king tells us to do something, he hands us a proclamation. We are going to carry it out without fear because the king has our back. The king is protecting us. The king will expose those who are coming against us. He will expose the hearts, Jesus, God, will expose the hearts of those men who are persecuting us and who are being deceptive and secretive about lies, like the lies that they say about us and us as Christ followers and the things that we're doing. And here's from another episode, it is good to self-examine ourselves. We can examine ourselves all day long, and as long as we are giving it to God, surrendering the things that we're seeing in ourselves that need to be surrendered, and allowing God to transform us, we can judge people's outward character, what we're seeing coming from them, but we cannot judge their hearts because only God can know hearts. Okay, so let me just be very clear about that and be careful about that. Don't judge somebody's heart, but you don't know their intentions. But if you know, and this is crazy because I'm thinking about this, not all the time, but it's really been hitting me the last 6 months. If you know that you are being obedient in love and you're doing what God has called you to do, and there's somebody who is like saying things about you that aren't true, guys, like God's going to fight for you. You don't have to defend yourself. I'm getting the Holy Spirit hugs right now, the little chills, because that is powerful. Even Jesus didn't need to defend himself. He knew that God had his back. He knew what he had to do in order to save many lives. And that was to surrender his body to God and allow God to take it and allow men to break it and kill him in order for us to be saved, and in order for the sins of this world to be taken away from us. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when you think about it. So do not let the present judgment of men frighten you, because we are living in the light of the future judgment of God. Okay, number 3. Why don't we have to fear? Because we fear God alone. In verse 28, it tells us this: don't be afraid of those who kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Rather, fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Okay, this is the coolest thing. And before today, I hadn't really dug into that verse to really think about this. All that a man can do, or a woman, whoever, all that men can do is kill the body. And if they do, the believer's soul goes home to be with the Lord. So I'm going to put that into, just a me example. You could come and kill me, whatever your method is. You could take my body. You could kill my body. But my soul goes whoop, right up to be with Jesus. That's cool. But here's the thing. God is able to destroy both the body and the soul in hell. And that is something to be feared. Of course, God would never, ever, ever condemn his children. He tells us that in John 5:24 and Romans 8:1. He wouldn't do that. He cares for us more than we can ever comprehend. And let me tell you a little bit about that. In Song of Solomon 2:16, it says, I know my lover is mine, and I have everything in you, for we delight ourselves in each other. His love transforms you. It changes your thinking, it changes your prayers, and even the essence of your life. The depth of his love goes beyond our natural understanding. And that's why I say it a lot of times, I can't even comprehend it, because it literally goes beyond comprehension. It goes beyond natural understanding. It's more than we could ever imagine. It's more than you could ever perceive. It would take eternity to grasp the wonder of his love for you, for me. It's not meant to be understood through doctrine or theology or teaching. It's just not. It's meant to be experienced in joy and in sorrow. His heart is one with you and me. And when we endure pain, he endures it with me, with you. He endures it with us. When we look into the sky and see the vastness of his universe, his love is greater still than that. His love, it's greater than the expanse of time and space. That can't even touch the depths of his love for you, for me. All things were created as gifts for us. We are a pearl of great price. He sold all that he had to purchase you, to purchase me. We are a treasure hidden in the field. He came into this world and he found you. Never, ever doubt his love for you guys. Never allow it to dim your heart. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so imagine this. In Luke 12:6, it says it did not cost much to purchase sparrows in the market. It didn't. Sparrows were like a dime a dozen. In fact, they actually even threw a sparrow in because they were so cheap. It was like an extra one, here, buy one, get one free sort of thing. Yet, in Luke 12:6 tells us this: the Father knows when a sparrow falls to the ground, and he is there. If God cares for the sparrows in such a marvelous way, will he not also care for the ones who are serving him, like you and me? He will. Guys, he certainly will. To God, we are of greater value than the sparrows. And he's concerned, just like I was talking about, like his love for us and how the depth of his love. Like, he's concerned about all of the details of our lives. Even the hairs of our head are numbered. In Matthew 10:29-31, it says, "Aren't 2 sparrows sold for an Assyrian coin? Not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will. But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Therefore, don't be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows." And let me point something out to you. Even the hairs of our head are numbered, not counted. Let me say that again, because let that sink into you. Even the hairs of your head are numbered. They are not counted, but numbered individually. God sees the sparrow that doesn't really have a lot of value. It's just like it doesn't even mean a hill of beans. He sees that sparrow fall to the ground. And God sees when a hair from your head falls from the head of one of his children. Now, if you're bald, you're going to have to take that up with your father. But I would guarantee you that you were probably at some point in your life blessed with some hair. And he knew when all of your hairs fell to the ground, if you're bald. When he protects his own, he protects them down to the individual hairs. And it tells us that in Luke 21:18. There is no need for us to fear when God is exercising such wonderful care over us. So that brings me back to the title of today's episode. The person who fears God alone never, ever needs fear any man, any person, any group of men, because the fear of God is the fear that cancels fear. Hope you have a great day, and just remember how much you're loved. And I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to Real Time JC. Here, follow me on Facebook, Instagram at StephNickSteph. I'll see you next time.